Good evening. Welcome to Stovetop Politics. I'm your host, Virginia Kruta. You can find me on Twitter at @VAKruta. And tonight we have kind of a special video gaming type edition of Stovetop Politics with a couple of surprise guests. We're going to be talking to Brandon Morse, formerly of Misfit Politics and currently of Dana on the Blaze. And we are also going to be talking to a gentleman you may know better as Jane, or any number of other names. Adam Baldwin is going to be talking with us about Gamergate. And as I am not really a gamer, it's something that I kind of had the feeling the last couple of weeks that quote was floating in my head. First they came for the Jews, and I was not Jewish, so I said nothing. And then they came for the Christians, and I was not Christian, so I said nothing. And I kind of felt like, hey, there's something going on here, and I may not be a gamer, but there's definitely something big here that we should probably all be thinking about. And so what these guys are going to talk to us about today is, one, kind of some background information on Gamergate for those of you who are not familiar with what's going on. And two, why, if you're not a gamer, you should still care. So this is definitely something that I've been thinking about. Like I said, the last couple of weeks or so, it's definitely been weighing on me. And so without further ado, we're going to bring these guys on. And let's see, Adam is probably the one who's been involved in it from day one. I believe you actually coined the phrase Gamergate. Am I right about that?
All I did was attach a hashtag to it, and after I'd seen a couple of videos that flew through my Twitter feed, and it kind of took off from there, and from then on I just participated as an interested observer, and I think
right.
the thing that really struck my fancy in those original videos was the term social justice warriors, because that particular
right.
buzz phrase social justice is leftist. It's hardcore leftist. It's authoritarian.
Oh,
yeah. And so I jumped on it and threw that up on the Twitter feed, and people glommed onto it. And I think the coincidental reaction from those that put the anti-Gamergate folks up to it was swift and exciting, because the very next day, 10 or 12 different articles were posted by different gaming publications in collusion, as it turns out, behind the scenes, all rolling into a convention of some gamers and some game journalists in this thing called PAX-Con, something or other. And so it threw them for a loop. So they really attacked me for several weeks. They continue to try, but I think we've had a really great, successful run. And Gamergate, the movement, the consumer revolt against bad ethics in gaming journalism, is a success.
Yeah, that's what you were saying, and I've noticed that, and actually I've seen a lot of people that I know who wouldn't normally be involved in something like this, where they look at it and say, okay, well, and like me, I'm not a gamer. I mean, I am. Full disclosure, I tend to make fun of my friends who are. I mean, I have my own little things that I get hooked on, but I've never really been into gaming, and I thought, but there's definitely something going on here, because I saw this connection with just the bad ethics in journalism, for one, using bad breakups as a reason for throwing out all this information that didn't need to be, that it's just a mess. And Brandon, you were talking to me earlier about that too.
Hold on, the bad breakup thing,
sure.
that was just used as a distraction or a pivot point into an ongoing scandal within gaming journalism and development, which had been going on for years before, or many months. in any case, and just because of the salacious zeitgeist that we have, people glommed onto that. But that's completely a side story. The really important thing is that there was corruption in the promotion of gaming and in the journalistic malpractices of gaming journalists. And they've been called out in public, and they don't like it, and they got really angry about it. But gamers are a tenacious bunch, and they didn't quit because gamers are, like I've said before, programmed to win. And the gaming journalists, they're not programmed to win. They're mostly coddled, white, pampered, upper middle class brats who have come on the scene and said they have this little fiefdom that they can control. But unfortunately, gamers are smarter than they are, and they've outlasted them, and they're smarter than they are. No matter what the gaming press says, they've lost. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it is kind of and that came out. Brandon, I'm going to have you talk in just a minute. I just want to point out that one of the things that actually got my attention was that petition to get Adam banned from Supernova Top Expo in Australia. And I saw that, and then the very next thing that popped up in my feed was the petition to get him uninvited. And the second one had far more signatures. Well, that
just is an indication of the desperation of these silly people. They're trying to get me banned from a it's a small private convention down in Australia, a localized place, and they're just thrashing around in pain. It's great. It's great to watch them do it. We have, we have victories across the board for the Gamergate movement. We have the PC gamer disclosure policies. We have different gaming sites forcing their developers and their Patreon accounts. Patreon is a sort of a way for it's like
welfare for hipsters.
It's welfare for hipsters. Thank you, Brandon. And the policies have had to be changed as a result of this. So I think also the history will be written by Milo Yiannopoulos and by this Wikipedia victory where they threw some moderators off of Wikipedia because they were completely biased, and those are victories.
And let's not forget that Gamergate cost, and this has been reported by Gawker Media, 7 figures.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not insignificant, and they've had some administrative changes there. Gawker's not going to go away, but people, especially young people, was another reason that I wanted to jump into this, alert young people to the jargon and the tactics of the authoritarian, hardcore left.
Mm-hmm.
And they are, and it's wonderful to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Brandon, I know you had some stuff that you wanted to bring up. Some friends of yours who've been directly involved and hurt by everything that's been going on.
Well, one of the things that really bothers me about this whole entire ordeal is that this is being put on by the social justice warrior crowd, the hard leftists, usually coming out of San Francisco, kind of the San Francisco mentality. They complain all the time, and you'll see figures like Anita Sarkeesian, Zoe Quinn, who was the spark that started the firestorm, is kind of, really all she is at the end of the day. And others who are claiming, well, I'm being harassed. Brianna Wu had, claimed she had to leave her house because she was being threatened. Anita Sarkeesian was, calling off speeches at colleges because she was being threatened and so on and so forth. Yet none of these threats were credible, none of them true. And you'll notice that they still go on and they harass gamers, by posting, tweets or memes and stuff that they know will make them angry, so that they know they get more anger directed at them and stuff like that. And here's the thing, gamers aren't even the ones that are doing the threatening or anything like that. These are third-party people who are coming in and making these threats and exposing their private lives and stuff like that. Well, they like to claim that, it's all Gamergate, these people are dangerous people, blah, 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 blah. Well, recently, and this has happened more than on one occasion, but this is the most recent one, there's a girl by the name of Lizzie F620 who was recently, she had all of her personal information leaked online. And this wasn't just, a typical, doxing. They really got in. They really dug into her life. And they exposed a lot of it. And it wasn't just her that they were threatening. They threatened her children. And it's not... It's just one of those sick things where no one's paying attention to this. The media's not giving...
Right.
They're not giving her any time. They're wanting to, talk to Anita Sarkeesian about how horrible her life is ever since she started telling lies about video games and so on and so forth. It's a really sick development that's been happening. Gamergate is having a huge effect, and you can tell by how much they're retaliating against innocent people who can't really, they don't deserve this kind of treatment. They're just...
Yeah,
go
jump
ahead.
in here. I think
Absolutely.
it's a mistake to play that same game that they do to personalize individual quote unquote victims. That's pretty much well known. That's a tactic of the Alinsky's. It's Alinsky Rule 12: attack a person and expose them, personalize them.
Yeah,
it's bigger than any one individual. It's
Absolutely.
undeniable that there are trolls out there that have attacked both sides and individuals on both sides, and we don't know who they are. They're anonymous people. Let's ignore them. Let's not even give them any credit. The important thing is that the mainstream missed the story, either purposefully or in an ideological sense. They did it on purpose because they had a political agenda. They wanted politics to invade video games, and they have failed. They tried it for a little while in metal music, like there was a little blurb on Metalgate, but since Gamergate came first, the gamers were tough, and they said, screw that. They tried the metal guys, forget it. That didn't even happen. Let's focus on the fact that we have gaming journalists who are now admitting that Gamergate is a self-described ethics movement. That's good. That's new. It's good. So anybody that's objectively looking at this story, especially over time and history, honestly, will realize that the Zoe Quinns, the Brianna Woos, the Anita Sarkeesians, and the John McIntosh, they're not even a part of it. They're over on the side. That's not what's important. What's important is that these journalists and the gaming industry has been called on the carpet, as mainstream press should be, by any honest assessment, and they're caught out. So that's why they lash back so angrily, because they're not used to it. They really are spoiled brats.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the things, and this is a question that's popped up in the chat, but it's also something that I was thinking about before doing the show, and it's an article that I'm kind of still working on. Why is Gamergate important to non-gamers? And my husband, who is often the brains behind the stuff that comes out of my mouth, had mentioned the point that, hey, they're talking about infiltrating the gaming community with this social justice talking and whatnot, and they're, people are saying, oh, well, it's just gaming, why does it matter? Okay, well, here's the question. If it's just gaming and it doesn't matter, why are they trying to take it over?
Well,
and second of all, what else are they going after that we don't think matters? You have to pay attention to every little battle or you lose the war.
Well, I think that, gaming is one of those places where there is still a huge, freedom of thought happening. You're seeing these games that are just so, like, they blow me away with some of the stuff that they come up with. Like BioShock, if you ever played BioShock, my God, they talk about things that typically, don't get talked about in Hollywood. They're still being talked about in video games, political ideologies, and everything down to the simple, the good guy versus the bad guy, and the good guy being an actual good guy. That's still a thing. And that's also not only that, and this is, I think, one of the most important things. It's freedom of expression. First minute, you don't have to like Grand Theft Auto. You don't have to. You don't have to buy it. But the fact that it can be made and played, to me, is awesome. I think this is great. You don't have to like it, but at the same time, you can't just say, well, because I think this game is sexist or something like that,